What's up, geeks? I'm back from another long break, and I have more thoughts on a new product. This time, the Oculus Go. I picked this up just shortly after Facebook announced it at their conference, saying that it was in stores, just shortly after. And waited a few days, thought it over, and said, I need to try this out. I do have some experience with mobile VR in the Daydream headset that came with my first Google Pixel phone, so I will be comparing this to that. So for those that don't know, the Oculus Go is a standalone portable VR headset, much like the Gear VR, which was powered by Oculus for Samsung phones, and the Google Daydream. The difference is, with the Samsung VR and the Google Daydream, you needed a cell phone that was compatible with those VR experiences to be able to use them. This is an all-in-one device. It's everything you need right out of the box to start getting into casual VR. A couple of thoughts on the hardware. So, as you can see, it has cloth straps to keep it on your head, has the over-the-head strap so it doesn't, fall down on your face like the first generation of the Google Daydream. That had a tendency to just ride down. The new Google Daydream headset fixed that, but this one has that right from the start. Also, it's got this little back strap here that goes at the back, top and bottom of the back of your head, which makes it just even more comfortable. And you can easily adjust the straps here and here. You can even take the over-the-head strap off completely, but I wouldn't recommend it. It's really heavy on the front end. Aside from that, it has really soft padding where you put it on your face. It's really plush, really comfortable. However, it being a VR headset, it does weigh down on your cheeks, so you do get those slight imprints from the padding. But the padding is better than a lot of the VR headsets that I've used. As well, it has really big lenses in it. These have a pretty good field of view, much, much better than the original Daydream headset, which it was like looking at the world like this. This is slightly better, but not completely, and I'll explain that in a moment. The rest of the headset is plastic. This up here is, it feels like metal, but I'm not terribly sure if it is, but this is where all the major components are. So this front panel will get pretty warm. There's no active cooling on this, so I think that this is meant to be used for dissipating the heat from prolonged use of the headset. And up top you have a power and volume buttons. Over here you have a USB, micro USB charging port. Yes, micro USB, where everybody else is moving to USB-C. Oculus Go decided to use micro USB. And a headphone jack. Nope, no need for Bluetooth headphones or wireless headphones of any sort. You've got a jack right there, and it's really nice. But it does not come with headphones. You will have to supply those yourself, which is not a bad thing. Who needs another pair of headphones lying around? As well, the included controller is very similar to the nunchuck from the Wii and Wii U. They look the same. They even have trigger button right up front. As well, this is a touchpad, so you can swipe around with it. It also clicks. You've got a back button and a home button. And this is, of course, motion sensitive, so it's kind of like a pointer when you're in VR. It can detect all these degrees of movement. But what's it like to use the headset? Well, first off, one of the big things I noticed when I first put the headset on is its clarity. This thing probably has the best image quality out of any VR headset that I have used. However, I have not used the Oculus Rift or the HTC Pro, was it Vive, I think? I haven't gotten any hands-on time with those. I'm just talking about standalone casual VR setups. So yeah, you don't get that horrendous screen door effect like you did with the first edition of the Samsung VR, Gear VR, that was what it was called, or the Daydream. But a lot of that was due to the pixel density of the actual phones that you use. So the screen in here has some good pixel density, and I think that the lenses really help with that. So you don't get a lot of that screen door effect, you don't see a lot of that space between the pixels, and that's really, really nice. I really love how clear and smooth the images look in the Oculus Go. Right now, I do have a first edition of the Daydream VR headset, which came with my first Google Pixel XL. I'm now using the Pixel 2 XL, but I did not get the second generation VR headset with it, which has the improved lenses, better heat dissipation, etc. So I haven't tried that. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what the improvements are firsthand. So really, I'm just going on the first Daydream headset, but the overall experience is the same, really. And that is to say that when you pop your phone into the Daydream, the image quality is really dictated by what phone you're using. And there are several phones that are compatible with Daydream VR. However, really, it's made for the Pixel line of devices. And the newer Pixels do have great pixel density on the screens, so you don't get that really bad screen door effect like with the first generation. But it's still there. Using the original 2016 Daydream headset with a Pixel 2 XL, there is still screen door effect. And it's really noticeable, and then you also have the problem of, like, if there's a smudge on your phone screen, you can see it. If there's dust on your phone screen and you're in a well-lit room, there's a lot of light bleed between the padding of the VR headset and your phone. So it's not all that great. Whereas with the Oculus Go, one of the awesome things about it is that, you can't open this up. Once you're in here, it blocks out a lot of the light except for like around your nose. So if you're in a bright room, you can see the light coming up through the opening for the nose piece. Whereas with the Daydream, light just comes in all around here. I know they said they improved that with the second edition, but again, I haven't used it, so I can't speak for that. Another big difference between these two headsets are controllers. So this is the Daydream controller, and this is, of course, the Oculus Go controller. Overall, from this end, they're almost identical. They both have a circular touchpad that clicks. They have a back button. They have a home button, which also serves to reset the pointer if you get that drift effect. Both do come with straps. I just don't have it looped into the Oculus Go. I do have it on the Daydream. However, big difference is that the Daydream headset has the volume controls on the side, which is great. So you can easily increase or decrease the volume without having to fiddle with your phone. But it doesn't have any type of trigger button like the Oculus Go's does. But with the Oculus Go, if you want to change the volume, you have to do it on the headset itself. And it's not always that easy. I often find myself fumbling for it because you have to do it with the headset on. So sometimes I hit the wrong volume, or like I drift over to where the power button is. It's kind of clumsy. I really like how the Daydream puts the volume control right on the controller itself. That's pretty brilliant, and I really think that Oculus needs to adapt that in some way that's really easy for the user and doesn't get in the way. And then we have the power methods to these controllers. So the Daydream controller is an internal rechargeable battery that's powered by USB-C. So it's the same charger that comes with the Pixel phone. You just plug it right in and you're ready to go. It recharges really fast. Takes really no time at all, and that's really nice. With the Oculus, you pop the end off here, and there's a single AA battery. It does come with one that goes on the inside. So yeah, you can't recharge this. You do have to replace batteries. So if you are out traveling with the Oculus Go, which they encourage, it's meant to be traveled with in some capacity. If the battery dies in the controller, you're going to have to go get some AA batteries. I don't really like that. I think they did it because it's so low powered and that one battery will last a long time, but that's still something you have to replace every once in a while. Whereas with the Daydream controller, you just plug it in if the battery is low, And even still, the Daydream controller battery lasts a long time. Audio quality between these two devices is a little bit harder to pin down, and that's because with the Daydream headsets, audio is completely dictated by the phone that you are using. So with the Pixel 2, it has those two front-firing speakers that are aimed at your ears. However, with the Oculus Go, they've done something really smart. There's this plastic here that holds the head strap, but if you look right there in the plastic, that is a speaker. There are speakers on either side of this. So they're placed right next to the ear. They have pretty good quality. You don't have to have headphones with this, which is really nice. I don't mind the sound at all. Yes, it's better to have a pair of headphones that you plug in. The sound quality is going to be better. But, for just casually, sticking this thing on when you're trying to relax and like watch Netflix or something, and there's no one around that you're bothering, it is perfect. It's great. Super easy. I really like that. So of course, with the first Pixel phone in the original Daydream headset, it only had like that one bottom firing speaker, and it was terrible. You really couldn't hear it. You had to have headphones to enjoy the Daydream with the original Pixel. But again, if you're using a Pixel 2, it is better. I can't speak for other Daydream compatible phones because I don't have them. I just have the Pixel. So that is an issue. The phone that you use dictates your experience on the Daydream. Now, because Facebook owns Oculus, this thing is really meant to be a social device. Like right into the operating system, there is a function for friends and live streaming to Facebook, taking videos and pictures of what you're seeing and being able to post them later, scheduling events in different VR apps. It's pretty cool. However, most people don't have any Oculus devices, and this will change that. They will become more ubiquitous through the sale of the Oculus Go. But it's going to be a problem if you're an early adopter. Still, it's pretty cool that it does have all of those social features that you can utilize. Daydream doesn't have that at all. You have no way to communicate with friends or anything like that through the Daydream operating system. And it's not really an operating system. It's an app that just functions on Android. I did try out the live streaming for a few minutes, and it was pretty cool. Like you can turn on or off the ability for the built-in microphone, which I forgot to mention, to pick up your voice during the live stream. You can also see who's watching you. You can see their comments and their likes at the very bottom, which is really cool. However, the problem with that is that this little overlay for live streaming pops up right on top of the main navigation bar in the Oculus operating system. So you can't click on any of these other functions without doing this thing where you have to duck your head all the way down to move that overlay out of the way. That's really poor planning. So that's something I hope they fix soon, because it's fun to live stream. Maybe one of those things you do once or twice for friends, but that is a hindrance. That is a weird quirk that you think they would have ironed out early on, but they didn't. Going back to the image quality for a second. So this has a pretty high resolution display, and the lenses really help that. But the resolution is not as high as the Pixel 2 popped into a Daydream headset. You actually have a wider view range, and that's because inside here is like a square screen. So you're looking at this square through circular holes, and it doesn't expand all the way out. So through your peripheral, you can see the edge of the screen. You can see where the display stops. And there's reasoning for that as far as longevity and performance. But it's really off-putting. So it's like, watching TV through your fingers. So it's a weird experience. I prefer a smartphone-based VR experience in that regard, simply because I can't see the edges of the screen when I'm using the Daydream. It's not a big deal. It's something you can adjust to, but it is always there, and you're always very aware of it every time you fire it up. Going on about the battery in the Oculus Go, they say that you should get about 3 hours out of this. I'm not getting that at all. Okay, maybe you could squeeze 3 hours out of this if you are just watching Netflix with it. But if you're playing a game, using Alt-Space VR, which is very taxing on it, I'm getting like an hour, maybe an hour and a half, depending on what I'm doing. I have to plug this thing in constantly. So I get some moments of fun out of it. It gives me a low battery warning. I've got to take it off, plug it in, come back later, and start the process over again. That's not fun. That's not good for the user. And yeah, sure, it's all going to depend upon what your usage is. But think about it. If 3 hours is the max you can squeeze out of this, try watching an Avengers movie on it. You may not get through the whole thing. That's pretty sad. That really hinders the VR experience when it comes to enjoying media like TV shows and movies. One of the things I really do love about the Oculus Store is that it's pretty well designed and curated. You can search either by typing in with the remote or by voice search. It's really awesome. I love that. That is something Daydream has managed to fail at. Somehow Google, the king of search, has made it impossible to search the Daydream VR App Store inside of Daydream. The easiest way to do it is to take the headset off, pull up the Daydream app, and search through there. That's pretty pathetic. I should be able to at least search for the name of the app I want inside the headset. I can do it here. Why can't I do that on Daydream? Why is that such a difficult thing to pull off? That just baffles me. Google, you need to get on that. You have got to give us a way to search the Daydream apps inside Daydream VR. And even do something as simple as sorting them. Okay, yes, so you have them sorted from like, here's apps, here's games, here's paid stuff, here's free stuff. Yeah, Oculus does that too. But you don't even give me the option to like sort through each of these categories. And some of them are like, have weird like crossover. Like I tried to find a social app, but it was not under, so it was weird. It was weird. Fix it, Google. Come on, fix it. So let's talk about operating system and apps. So Oculus, having been around longer and having more developers behind it, has a much bigger app library than Daydream does. There is some crossover. They do have some same apps and games that run fine on both, but the heavier kind of stuff is really on Oculus. And that's because there's been, more time for developers to get behind it and put out their products and apps on it. For instance, there is an app called Alt-Space VR, which is available on Oculus Go. It's available on Daydream. You can get it on the PC VR setups. I think it's available on home gaming consoles as well, like PlayStation VR perhaps. So it's in a lot of places. It's available pretty much everywhere. But your experiences are going to be very different from platform to platform. Tried it out. It's really cool. It's like it's a small virtual world where you can go in and chat with complete strangers, play games. It's kind of cool. It's like the Oasis 1.0, I guess. So it's not super robust. There's not a whole ton of things to do, but it's cool. It's a cool way to get acquainted with VR. However, it doesn't run so well on these standalone systems like the Oculus Go or the Daydream. For instance, the first night that I was trying out Alt-Space VR, or Alt-Spaces VR, I don't remember which it is, there was this event going on inside of it, like a huge meetup. And I was like, okay, cool, I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna go to this meetup and see what it's like. And every time I I loaded into this meetup room with all these people in it, 30 seconds later, it would crash on the Oculus Go. And no matter how many times I tried to load it up, it was just too taxing on the device and it would crash. Not a problem you're probably going to run into if you have the Oculus Rift or the Vive or the PlayStation VR, because those are systems that, of course, you have to have a lot of RAM, you have to have a good graphics processor, etc. Those can handle what AltSpace VR requires. And it's not like a graphically intensive app, it's just there's a lot going on. And the Oculus Go can't handle all of that, apparently. So yeah, that's a problem. And it ruined the experience. I didn't get to go and, hang out with these people and meet strangers and it was a big bummer. So that's something that AltSpace may need to work on, but it's also really telling of the power behind this. The processor in here is like a 2-year-old cell phone. Whereas, if you've got a new phone like the Pixel 2, it's got a way better processor in it. And the reason that Oculus says that they used a less powerful processor is because they said they've optimized the operating system so it doesn't need a really great processor. Not always true, apparently, because it just could not handle AltSpace VR. Now, I did try loading into AltSpace with the Daydream version on my Pixel 2. And the experience overall was about the same. However, 1 minute into just casually using AltSpace VR, not going into one of those chat rooms that's laden with people, I was just milling about in the open beginners area. And within a minute, I was getting a warning saying that my phone was too hot to shut down Daydream and let the phone cool off. That's a problem. That ruins the experience right from the start. You cannot use AltSpace VR on a pretty powerful phone like the Pixel 2 without it overheating. I don't know if the second edition of the Daydream headset would help this because it's got better heat distribution. But even still, if the phone got that hot that quick, I wouldn't want to use that on a regular basis because it's going to drain my phone. It's going to burn up my battery really bad. It's not good. Now, however, shortly after the Oculus Go was released, Lenovo said they were ready to release the Daydream Mirage Solo to the public. It is out now. However, apparently they didn't make very many of them because it was sold out immediately. I can't get my hands on one, and I would really like to see how it compares because the Mirage Solo has much better specs overall than the Oculus Go as well. It has some built-in real-world tracking that the Oculus Go cannot do. So not only does the Daydream Mirage Solo recognize, that head tilt, side to side, back and forth, it also can recognize, the up, down, completely different axis because it has those two camera trackers in the front. The problem being, the Mirage Solo is twice the price of the base model Oculus Go. It's $400. The Oculus Go starts at $200 with a 64 gig model coming in at $250, which is the model that I'm trying out. Another thing I'm not really super into when it comes to the Oculus Go, it's got this feature, and they call it's a feature, but not a great one. This thing automatically turns itself on the moment you move it. So if you have it sitting on a table and pick it up, the device activates. And there is a proximity sensor right here apparently, and once you get your face near it, that also causes the device to turn on. That's nifty insofar as I just pick it up, put it on, and it's ready to go. However, it turns on at the slightest bump. I had this thing sitting on my bed, and I sat down on my bed and I heard it turn on. And, and I barely even moved it. It was just the slightest bump. So it wakes itself up with just tiny movements, and that's going to deplete your battery faster than it should. And speaking of battery, this thing does not have a good battery life. Biggest problem I've come across so far is it drains just sitting on a table doing nothing. So I would charge this at night, unplug it in the morning, go to work, come back, pick it up, it's at 20% battery. So it drains battery just sitting there doing nothing at all. And even if you turn it off, if you power it off, which you have to hold the power button, look inside, point the controller at it, and choose power off, it still will turn itself back on if you move it or pick it up. It doesn't stay off until you hit that power button. And as you can see, the light is on. Me moving it around keeps it awake. So this is draining battery, just me holding it like this. And even if I turn that off, in a few minutes, it'll be back on. That's a really poor design, in my opinion. And there you go. See, it's back on. It's just been a few seconds, and I just have it in my hand. When I turn this off, I want it to stay off. Don't turn back on just because I picked it up. If anything, that should be an option in the settings that I can turn on and off. Think about it. If you are traveling with this and you have it in a carrying case or a bag, every bump or movement is going to register and it's going to wake up, and that's going to drain your battery. So if Oculus wants me to take this on like a plane trip and watch Netflix with it, it's by the time I get on the plane, it's probably going to be drained down to 50% battery just from me walking through the airport. So Oculus, please fix this. I don't want that to happen. Why can't it that when I turn it off, it stays off? Why can you not do that? Another thing I want to talk about is ecosystem. So right now, buying any type of headset, whether it's Oculus, Daydream, otherwise, you are locking yourself into an ecosystem at this time. What I mean by that is I have a Pixel 2. I buy all of my music and videos through the Google Play Store, and if I want to watch them on my VR headset, I can do that. Except for YouTube TV, which is still not a Daydream app, apparently. So all of those movies and TV shows that I've purchased through Google Play and can view on the Daydream, I can't access on the Oculus Go. Google has no support for Oculus whatsoever, apparently. You can access things like YouTube by using the built-in web browser in the Oculus Go, but it's a very clunky experience and just not enjoyable. And then you can also buy movies in the Oculus operating system. However, you can't watch those anywhere else. You are locked into watching anything you purchase in Oculus. And that's a problem. That's one of these, early issues that we're going to run into in VR, is that there's no crossover with media and things like that. Yes, app developers can put their apps on each of these platforms, but if the creators of the platforms don't have some crossover, it screws the user. So think of it this way. Let's imagine that you want to get on Facebook.com, but the only way you can do that is to buy a computer made by Facebook. Or let's say you want to watch YouTube, but you can only access YouTube through a Chromebook. That is a big middle finger to all the consumers out there. It's not good for us. It's the same iPhone versus Android thing. You use one for a length of time, you are locked into that ecosystem. And you can go back and forth between the two, but it's really difficult. You lose a lot of your data, your purchases. It's just so frustrating right now. I want to view my Google purchased movies on the Oculus Go because the Oculus Go looks better, but I can't do that. And there's no way I'm going to purchase movies through Oculus because I may not even keep this thing. I don't even like it that much. It's $250 and it's still a fairly clunky experience. So the future of these devices needs to be no different than buying a computer. The VR headset should simply be the method in which I access information, just like a computer. If you've seen or read Ready Player One, then you know in that world that's complete fiction, but is totally possible, there are a lot of different manufacturers of Oasis gear. Not everybody has the same headset or the same haptic gloves or the same rig or whatever. It's just a method in which to access the Oasis. And that's what we need in current VR. It just needs to be a method in which to access VR. And yes, sure, you can buy a more powerful headset if you want to play a more taxing game. Same as PC gaming. I've got a fairly good laptop, the Surface laptop, but it's not a gaming laptop. Gaming on it is absolutely terrible. I didn't buy it for that though. I bought it so I could, do writing, do video editing, try out programs and all that stuff. And if I want to play games, well, then I'll invest in a gaming PC to be able to do that. But again, I should just be able to access VR content no matter what device I'm using to access it. And sure, maybe that's the future of VR. I hope it's the future of VR, and I really think it has to be the future of VR, where it's just like going into Best Buy and like, oh, here's a $200 headset, that'll just get me access to the internet and this and that, and that's all I need. Or you have people who want to go and throw $1,500 on a really good VR setup because they want to do everything. That's what we need. That's where it needs to go, but it's not there yet, and it really hinders the experience. I do think that Oculus Go is probably the first mainstream VR headset that's going to take off, and that's because it's so accessible. You don't need anything but the device itself. You don't have to have a phone that's compatible to plug in. It just works out of the box, except for the fact that you have to set it up with a smartphone app. But that everybody's got a smartphone these days. If you don't have a smartphone, why would you buy a VR headset? Come on. So the big question: am I keeping this? I don't think so. Right now, it's just too early to invest in mainstream VR. Even with like a headset like this, it's just okay. It's fun for like a few days. But then the experience, the excitement wears off, and it doesn't have, that draw to it. I don't want to put the VR headset on. I don't look forward to it. Sure, using Netflix and Hulu in the VR space is kind of fun, but I don't think it's worth $250 for the higher end Oculus Go. I don't think it's worth the $200 for the low end spec. I mean, if it's something you want to play around with, sure, it's an impulse buy. That $200 is pretty easy to drop on something like this and to have fun for a few days. But I really see myself putting this aside after a week and picking it up maybe once or twice a month. And that is not a justifiable price. Honestly, I'd rather invest in a more professional rig that uses the Oculus Rift. Sure, I have to deal with cords and I need to have like minimum specs on a PC, but I know it would run everything and I'd probably have more fun and I could interact more with the environments. And that's really where, mobile VR has to go. We're not there yet. It's going to be a while before we can get that desktop gaming PC VR experience on a portable headset such as this one. So yeah, pretty sure this is going to go back to the store, and I'm just going to wait it out and maybe wait for a Gen 2 or to see if the Mirage Solo is any good. Hopefully I'll get to play around with one of those and report back to you on it, but it's not likely. But until then, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want, like, subscribe, whatever. Comment down below if you have one of these. I don't care. You don't have to interact with me if you don't want to. I mean, who watches this anyway? But whatever you decide to do, just be cool about it. And I'll catch you geeks later.